Like a midget.
Everyone already knows I am.
First giving you a booster seat.
Let's call the meeting to order. Yeah. We can do, actually, this is Mr. Jason. Can you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sure. All right, roll call, please.
Miller.
Here.
Craig.
Here.
Freak. Here. Leonard.
Here.
Didi.
Here.
Dennis.
Here.
Beavers.
Open the floor to public comment. Close the floor to public comments. All right, consent agenda. Anybody agree or disagree with city council meeting minutes? Bumper bills.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's cleared. Consent agenda and done. Number 2 on the board, Mr. Burley.
Yes, sir. Hi, folks. I've been the city attorney here since probably before many of you were born, 1969. I'm glad to be here, glad to see you folks. And I like the way the meeting with the police that I just sat through. I've never sat through one before. And, you know, all of the municipalities have to have it one way or another, but I'm glad I was invited for that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming. All right. Adam, welcome.
Neil.
Thanks for having me. Neil, welcome. C280, this is Adam, just make sure you guys know who you're talking to, we'll have some questions and stuff. Do you have any questions or comments about this time?
Well, I figured maybe I should introduce myself as well. We've been here in front of the council once or twice before, but I know we have a lot of new faces over the last year, so just want to give you a little bit more background about us and C280. So I'm Adam Polkowski. I've been with C280 for 26 years now. Started working there while I was finishing up my degree at Michigan State, and I have been there ever since. Started, I think my first project with the city of Laingsburg was in 2001, I believe, just a year or two back there. I'm involved as well with Michigan State University, the American Society of Engineers. I'm the practitioner advisor for the student chapter, so work to try to develop new engineers coming up into the world as well, and give them some practical applications to apply to what they're learning in school. And some of my time is also tied to high school sailing team coach, so I'll try not to get too far into that. We burn a lot of time on it. Neil is been with us for a little over a year and a half now. We're around a year and a half. So I got to neighborhood 10 years of experience.
10 years and a couple months, post-graduation, Michigan Tech, engineering, spent a lot of time in the field, on construction sites, seeing how things get built. Project manager with C280, so.
Be careful if we start talking bird hunting or fishing with him, he might be tied up.
Or Christmas trees, I hear.
As C2AE, you've probably seen our name on documents with the city over the years, under different names as well. Capital Consultants is incorporated name. And, projects back to before I was born, in the late 70s. So, we have had a very long-standing relationship with the city that we do appreciate. We do look to team and find great value for the city as we go forward on things, and we'll talk a little bit about some of those items that we try to do to approach to create value for the city. One of those values that we've kind of gone through over the last 10 years, we've been involved with helping the city get grant money right around $2.5 million in the last 10 years, tied with asset management work. So being able to inventory all the assets that the city has from the water and wastewater side, stormwater, wastewater, excuse me, and a CDBG grant that allowed improvements for drainage work and road improvements on Shiawassee. And then also had one category to Wolf Streets grant as well, which was $250,000 of dollars to be used towards the road. And most recently, been involved with the Kayak Launch project, which was working on, it's mostly complete, substantially complete punch list items there to get addressed yet. So a little bit of background on some of the things that we've been involved with over the years. We've worked hard to try to make sure that the value is there in what the city is getting through these processes. Recently, you saw a proposal for a capital improvement plan. We're just completing essentially the work that had gone through the previous 5-year plan. That was focused primarily on the roads, and the city actually sold bonds and went through to be able to accomplish the majority of the work that was actually in that plan. It's great. We've attacked some of the needs on the storm sewer side as we encountered it with those projects, as well as improvements for some ADA requirements with sidewalk work. Though we haven't really tackled the sidewalk work because funding is always tricky in that neighborhood. We did also incorporate in that CIP plan, though, an evaluation of the sidewalks and conditions. So we did an inventory back in that 5-year period. So when we get into this next CIP, we're going to go through and verify. Sidewalk doesn't tend to have the same degradation rate that the pavements will, but we'll still go through spot check and then take a look at what things might be opportunity for incorporating into adjacent projects, or if the city so desires going after trying to complete connectivity or address ADA requirements. We also inventoried parking lots, and over the last couple of years, I've been able to get after some of those improvements as well. So we'll update that information. We can look at in this next CIP 5 years, more of a comprehensive approach to roads, sewers, sidewalks, and parking. Some of that work over time, we've looked for ways to join with the adjacent agencies. And most of the time that's been most successful with the county. And that's been tying into whatever the county work that is going on nearest that could be tied into a similar type work that we're planning to fulfill in the city. That comes along with crack sealing, chip sealing has been done with that, and some paving work as well. So in most cases, we're able to identify the need from that part of the projects and then turn the work over to the county. The county just projects. So that gives you maybe a little bit of background and some of the things that we've been involved with, in some of the things that we look at from an approach standpoint wise with the city, and how we try to see some of that value moving forward with that work. I understand there've been some questions. And apologize, we weren't at the last meeting to be able to answer some of those, maybe out there, but I'd like to help understand, what your needs are. And maybe give a little bit more background, so some more specific, if you have questions.
Yeah, we have questions. I know y'all do.
Scott, I do, but I just don't want to hog the floor. So the last, I asked for your contract, the last one we had was from 2016. And I don't like having contracts that are just out there forever. I think they should be renewed. And trying to get an understanding of what your basic contract is and what we're paying for. And then every add-on after that. I mean, what do we get from the contract? I mean, there's 5 paragraphs here, but I mean, how often can we call you up and say, we'd like you to come in and explain to the public service department what your sidewalk evaluation is, or do we pay for that? I don't know those answers. I'd like to know exactly what we get and how we pay for it.
Sure. In the contract that you're referring to is the indefinite delivery, general services as needed contract, correct? I believe that's.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, general service architecture.
The reason I asked that is we usually use that contract. That's a time and materials contract. That allows us to call and engage us for whatever the need is. Typically, that's used for smaller type activities. There are times where it might be a quick hitter or something that is felt that it's not necessarily in a need to go through a full proposal. In that contract's engaged and we use that. We typically will build that in phases so that you guys can see and keep track of how time is assigned on this work. The engagement of time in that contract, we more times than not, it's when I say smaller activities, even if you call to look up something or pull some information. If we bill, we're billing for fractions of the time that we're actually putting in there. So we may get a phone call, need to check on some stuff, pull some information, make sure we're coordinating internally as well. So our team members have good understanding. So you can call me or you can call Neil and be able to get some information from that.
So
You may see a
just to
fraction
have
of
the
it.
contract with you, I assume that comes with a base price.
No, that indefinite delivery contract is this time of materials. So we've had years where the city has not engaged much activity at all. There may be almost nothing on that. And then we've had years where we might be going after some grant funding. We might have a couple of different things from development. There might be a site plan with something specialty in it that requires some additional attention. So we may have a whole bunch of different tasks that are under it in those years. It just varies. When we have more, what I call more like a larger type of project, typically that's going to come with a separate contract. So we'll provide a proposal, go through that, and depending on how the contract's set up, the type of work it'll vary what's structured for that. Sometimes it might be a design where we provide the design first and then establish, because maybe we have a good idea what we want to do, or maybe we're going to work our way through what the final approach is going to be. So we put together a design and then later have an amendment and add bidding and construction type services. Others, we know exactly what we want to do, where we want to go. We might provide the proposal at that time to cover all of those services at once.
So capital consultant, is that like the ones that have been in the city of Lansing for quite a few decades?
Yep, since '66.
And is it C28E there too now?
Yes, so our incorporated name is Capital Consultants, Inc. We do business as C2AE.
Architects and engineers.
Yeah,
Consultants.
and they-
architects, engineers.
It came from the mouthful that we were doing for a while. We had picked up a firm that did architecture and engineering, or architecture and engineering design works in Grand Rapids. We'd actually been sharing an office with them with our services and their services added together and eventually brought them into our company. When we did that, our receptionist was answering the phone. Capital Consultants Design Works AE, and so we made it easier for her and just shifted the name to C2AE from that point.
Could you give us a general overview of kind of like the entire process from termination of work to finish, like the parking lot that we just did in conjunction with the school? So I'm assuming we approach you, say, hey, we want to put a parking lot in. Then what? You're coming back with a plan.
So,
That's the wrong.
well, parts to that, I'm gonna do one as though it's not that parking
Yeah.
lot, the same idea.
Yeah.
And I say that because that one took a really different path, but I'll go through both of them.
Yeah.
So once a project's identified, we'll go through and with that identification, be able to establish some scoping. And then typically that would be for us to engage with a proposal. If we're looking at multiple options or different sizes or whatever, like I said, we might just do the design proposal up front. And then establish what is it really gonna take anticipated to build the project before we establish the construction and bidding services. So we would, from ground up, we would get survey, so we'd go out and get shots physically out there so that we can create a surface in order to design from existing surface. And then complete design, depending on what we're doing, well, we might have some options with that. Sometimes the site doesn't have enough room to have options. Sometimes there might be plenty of options, and so we might have 2 or 3 different. So we try to engage that in scope and project. How many versions do we really want to put? We'll go through that effort and make sure that we're getting some geotech information as well. So typically we'll get soil forings or pavement pours, depending on the actual work that's going to be planned out there. Give us a little bit of an idea of what can be established to try and make sure we can put the right kind of pavement in place that's going to be able to support it structurally. And also to see if we have any surprises coming. Can keep in mind, I say that, keep in mind, they're going out and poking a hole here, poking a hole here, poking a hole here. The surprise is if you actually hit one of those into a surprise, right? You can go all the way around. There's always a chance.
Our left
Yeah.
piston.
Yeah, that's a good example, right? Carlet piston. That information all pulled together, put together a design in order to find the reasonable type of pavement to use in that situation. What we want to have, curving gutter, or no curving gutter, walkable access, ADA requirements, all those kind of things we try to incorporate into that. Once we've got a set of plans that are at a point where city is good with what we're going to be moving forward with. We're making sure that that's permittable if we have any permit requirements. Sometimes I'm not, we're dealing primarily with SES and type of permits, but if we get close enough to a flood area or anything like that, we have other things that we have to take into account. You know, the kayak launch had other permitting requirements tied into it based on the proximity to the river. Then the project would be advertised, and they're typically set up as public advertisements. We assist in that. Got different places that we can post the information. Typically, projects with the city, we're administering the bidding process. This varies by community. Sometimes communities want to take that on and assist. And in this case, we're actually at putting the documents out. Contractors are contacting us to get information, contacting us with questions. So if any addendum put out, we can put that out in order to provide clarity to the documents And the bids are then publicly opened. That we almost always do here. It's a joint effort, usually at least one member of the city is involved and typically one of the situations are here to go through that process of reading public reading. We'll open bids, make sure that required documents are there, that they got the insurance and bid bonds also incorporated in. Even that everything checks out with what's going to be in there. It doesn't set that. Next part is we'll go through and tell. We'll run the bid tabs on the unit. This gets more particular and like a unit price type of contract. So if we're paying for a ton of HMA, the asphalt, are we paying for sidewalk by a square measurement kind of thing? Because we want to make sure that they've done their math correctly. So we process a bid tab and go through and give that math. And there are often than not things that didn't get mathematically calculated properly. So they might vary a little bit from what the bids still, but and then provide you with level, you know, if the apparent low bidder seems to be, if we see a reason not to, so like much reasonable. In my years, I only had to do that once, and that's not a fun process, but it does happen. So just depends on what you're dealing with. And contractors around it. Some contractors will go pretty well. Some occasionally will actually need to call and with different references to make sure we get a good feel for what their experience is. Only if I'm getting too detailed, I'm sorry. I could take a long time going through it, but I want to give you guys a good feel for each of the parts, right? So we get through the bidding process, contract then comes in front of the council for whether or not you are to accept that for the contract. Once that is done, going to move forward. We typically are engaged to assist in getting the contracts prepared. So we're pressing the contractor about getting all the signed documents, getting everything from the bonds and stuff back for the full package. Insurance is all set for that and double checked in. And then that stuff is submitted for evaluation for executing those documents. Then we would set up a pre-construction meeting. Meet with the city and contractor, and normally we're inviting the utility companies. Typically, we don't get a huge amount of attendance from them, but if they've got something that's very concerning for them in the area, they will participate. Just to try to get everybody on the right foot for what needs to happen with the project, what the expectations are, review contract specific requirements, because there might be activities and events that need to be protected, which we try to engage in contracts so that they're not doing work when we're having the area open to public, right? We also talk about what the pay application schedule is going to be and make sure that everybody's forward with that kind of operation. We provide construction administration services and construction observation services typically on a parking. Depending on the project, depends on how much involvement that might be. And in some cases, depending on the funding source, we provide that. Some funding sources require full-time on-site RPR inspector to be out there and engaged in what's going on. Some contracts don't require that. Some above grade contracts, we can spot check versus having to be on-site all the time. And we talk about that as we get ready to scope the construction services. What's going to be needed, what's necessary, how much involvement really needs to be on site. The other item that comes into play from the on-site is we typically have the materials testing, and usually there's some construction state that's involved as well. There's two different ways to handle it, but it normally is a little less of a challenge with the contractor dealing with them to that some of those are engaged through the contract with the city for passing things. We do a little bit of that work, but most of the time we have team member subs that are participating in the survey work. So probably seeing lineman engineering group associates, mega trucks along periodic construction. And oftentimes we're working with Drake's and Bell associates. They're doing materials testing. So they'll come out and check density, they'll come out and check the HMA, make sure we're getting the gradations that was material that we're expecting and that that's getting compaction appropriate. And they'll check the concrete as well. So, and from a construction administration side, depending on the complexity of the project, we're reviewing shop drawings, submittals. So contractors required to provide us with information showing what they intend to use. So the contract, construction would materials as in what type of concrete, what type of HMA. If they've got trees or landscaping things that they're supposed to submit that. We're doing curb and gutter that has reinforcement steel in there, and so they're supposed to submit information so that we know that they're providing stuff that's meeting the specs and the perspective. So we'll do those. We are reviewing our IDRs and making sure that the documentation is getting covered. And we're checking that for pay applications, so we can make sure the contractors submitting pay applications that those match up with what we've tracked with quantities. That in the end, the time around those unit price contracts, that's all in line with getting to goals. We'll answer questions, contract and RFIs, request for information. We'll address any changes that might need to be done, either unforeseen circumstances where it's happened where we start construction and maybe there's something that has come up and we want to do something different. So we need to make some kind of adjustment and change to the design before it's built to accommodate whatever that might be. And finally, we normally have some record information. So whether it's a full record drawing or if we're providing GIS updates, information like that, kind of technical work that's in construction.
No,
A lot of these engineers look at a lot of detail, but I hope that kind of helps a little bit on more of an overview, things that you should expect to see from us, right? When we're submitting proposals, to give you a little bit of an idea of what kind of things are going on in association with construction projects, design aspect.
So that's done, when that parking lot's finished, that's finished to your specification.
Well, for example, that parking lot is under the specifications of the design, right? So that's where that one gets to be a little different, is that one was designed under contract with the school between KEBS. And so we were making sure that that was being executed in accordance with those construction documents. And that wasn't necessarily our design. We wouldn't necessarily always do things exactly with it that was set up. But the intent of that project was to execute what had been completed already. And there were a few things I think that had been tweaked along the way, and then as stuff got opened up, obviously we found the pavement section couldn't handle the bus drop off or the parent drop off, excuse me. And once we exposed that, it just been pulled the loads of the construction equipment to be able to put it back together. We do punch list walkthrough with the contractor at the substantial completion of the work. So there are things that, that need to be addressed and taken care of in the course of the project. And then after that's complete is when it should be all set compared to the intent of the documents.
Okay.
So if we look at the boat launch, because I might have missed something, but when you bid it out and we authorize payment, and then you come back with another bill and another phase or another bill, why do those add-ons, why aren't they just put into the initial bill? Why do they keep increasing over time or over? Is there something changing that?
in the bill.
The amendments.
Yeah, we just,
The amendments, okay, so,
sorry.
no, that's okay, I just want to make sure I've answered the question correctly for you. With that particular project, that was following along a stage of what work had been assigned at what time. So because that project started a while ago, it started in 2021. And was initially set up for performing some concepts of the drawings and also assisting with some initial grant applications. And there was a second amendment, which, if I remember correctly, added the rest of the design services in there so that that could be fully established to be biddable documents. And this last amendment really covered the bidding and construction services that were in there.
Then the original was way before your guys' time.
No, I'm just curious. I didn't understand why there was
They-
amendments. Why wasn't it just part of the original package? So I didn't get why we were.
That project is, again, another example that's not typical. And the reason it's not typical is because it highly elongated schedule. So there were large periods of time that were.
What caused that?
The Fed money.
It was a funding,
Okay.
it was a funding.
Okay.
So the initial intent was to be able to get documents in place to be able to go after grant. So be able to attack getting those dollars in place and go after several different sources. And it also incorporated some public input periods. So early on in that 21, 20, early 22, those were what was being attacked in that portion of the project, right? And after that, that did not actually get through funding in the first rounds. So the city submitted multiple other grant applications in order to work through that. Most of those, we provided some assistance with the backup information and reviewed some of the stuff as a background, but the city actually performed submitting those alternative grant applications for it. And I think it was the third time it got funded, third time too. So persistence prevails,
Yeah.
At least in some cases, right? So once that went, and we weren't able to necessarily put everything in place for those contracts because we didn't know when it was going to be completed. So the first got the grant process started, got the concepts in place to be able to go after that. Then the design was squared away, and that was going on prior to while the grant process was working through. So whether or not the construction was going to be in that same year, or if it was going to push off into this year. So that's why those other services weren't added all in a single package. It's not, like I said, there are so many variables that come into play. I talk about typical, we have some of those that will come through in that fashion. More times than not, it's the typical type work are things that we go through from a CIP perspective. And we've established, this is something that we want to do. We think we're going to do it 2 years from now. And so we know, all right, this is the target when we want to have that construction going. We back that schedule out, and then we run more linear path, being able to complete that. Much easier to be able to establish that. When we're attacking projects that have other funding sources and stuff tied into it, or we know we want to do something, but we need to find where that money can come from. More times than not, that's going to end up being a little bit more piecemeal together because we have no idea. Something built in 2 years isn't going to build in time.
Does the time and materials contract? Is it dipping into that in preparation for the job?
That depends on the work type. There have been times where that was a phase was set up for doing some preparation work, whether it's grant applications. And then once a work project might be established, then it might go to a full proposal project. As an example, we've done the CDBG, or not CDBG, the category B, thanks, for the grant applications. Those have typically been performed under the general services contract. When the grant was won a few years back, that ended up being a separate contract. For, I think the design was performed as a general service and the construction was pulled as a separate contract.
So if we choose to do a block of paving, you tap the time and materials contract first, and then the proposal is where you'll get the big money, so to speak. Am I being kind of,
I want to make sure I answer it appropriately. So if we have a road, we're going to do a road project. If we know what the road project is, then we would more than likely start with a proposal. Unless there's an intent in different councils and in different city staff members have different approaches. So I've kind of been wide with what I've explained for the use of these things. Because it does change a little bit on how the city is comfortable utilizing the contract, and the way the contract is written allows for that flexibility. But if the city wants to just move forward with it as a general service contract, we can, or project, we can do that. If the city would prefer for us to put together a proposal and submit that, we will do that too. More times than not, the use of that general service contract is for things that there are a lot of question marks tied on. So, for example, the railroad site, potential development for the housing. Right now, there's a phase that's been on the general service contract for a number of years, because it starts up and it stops, and it starts up and then something else comes into play. And so we keep track of that, and that one is under that. Now, if that moves far enough to a point where it could be moving to construction, that would definitely be one that we would submit a proposal for performing the work. But until we are able to get to those questions, it's tough to tell. So that ends up being tracked by the time materials.
Any more questions?
Yeah. Where does this work in terms of, dare I say, warranty? So let's say in whether these are typical projects or not, I'm just thinking questions that I've received in my first year being on council. The school parking lot's been hotly debated by a lot of people in town. It's hard to go anywhere without someone probably mentioning something about it.
Okay.
Whether it's, why was it built so high? Why is the drain when you first drive in 2 inches lower than the asphalt on one side, but level on the other? What assurances can we give the community when they say, hey, why is that like that? My initial response is, well, I'm not worried about it because C280 handled it. So if something doesn't work out, I'm assuming you guys are standing behind her. You're going to hold the contractor to bear for at least a reasonable amount of time. I would think a parking lot should last at least 12 months without a major defect. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah. So the contract itself that the contractor, the city holds with contract, does have provisions for quality of work and acceptance of work. The example you brought up, I want to try to answer that is two parts, right? So one, in most circumstances, if we have designed it, I can tell you why.
Yeah.
I can speculate on why some of that was set up in that particular parking lot. A lot of it has to do with the soil conditions that were there. Really want to dig as little as possible in those scenarios. So it probably sets up a little higher than what you normally would in order to keep from taking material off the site.
Because it was environmentally,
It takes.
it does.
they dug holes there, but they didn't take as much material at that site as you would have if you had brought that down. We would have significant cubic yards of material. So there were some areas that, in fact, we were looking at, there's a soft spot originally in the northern portion of that parking lot. And in order to, they dug a couple of holes in there trying to sort out, doing a full undercut section in there with a sand undercut, which is normally dig out the bad material, just put clean sand in and compact it. But they started to dig far enough that we didn't want to get any further into that soil. Based on, they did clean up on that site, but it didn't necessarily account for them excavating everything off of that site. So that material ended up going back into its place, and a different method of undercutting and supporting structural material went down there to minimize the amount of actual excavation that was done here. So there were spots that got dug out there, and there were some other areas where you might have seen some deeper excavation as well, when they were putting in some of the storm sewer. They had to excavate it deep enough to get the catch basins in, and I could get them over 5-6 feet deep at least to be able to get those in place. And some of that material, I believe, was even moved around on site, or at the time when the schools prepared most of the storm sewer work, they were hauling that off. And there were certain provisions for materials on that project. Because we didn't know, and they didn't know, when they put the documents together originally, how much we were gonna encounter. We could have had to take it to different landfills, which had different prices depending on what's in that soil, right? That could go over dirt depending on how far it has to be trucked off, which sites would actually take it.
So the C2A, like, follow up and inspect and are the projects that you guys oversee for like these warranty issues and identify areas when maybe there are concerns, or would that fall on the city to identify those issues? And then if so, what is the best method to bringing that to your attention or the appropriate parties' attention?
At the end of every project, we do a punch list walkthrough. We did for this project, school, incorporating the work at the school and Treat Street, which the school package was designed by others and was brought into really the city's bid package to increase the work, hopefully increase the volume of work, get a better price. Was having one window replace zero versus other support. But yeah, at the end of the project, we do a punch list walkthrough where we walk typically with somebody with the city, as well as the contractor, and identify any deficiencies or button up items. On this punch list, restoration is always a big one. That's can be seen by the eye. Any dips in the pavement, which was brought to our attention actually before we did the walkthrough, so we're able to add that. That's in that northern corner of the property. That has been taken care of back in October, by the way. So all of the punch list items are essentially, there was another spot on Fleet Street, that's been taken care of. And they heat up the pavement, rework it, and roll it to get water to drain. So those items have been taken care of. I was eating lunch in town one weekend and swung through and noticed some of the straw had been blown away and seed and topsoil in school. So, which is typical, but will hold retainage. So right now we're currently holding about $4,000 on that project, and that's a good incentive to on the contractor. One, I can speak for some contractors. Their name is on the equipment, their name's on the project as well. They want to do a good job. They're not too far from this town, so. But that's also a good incentive to, hey, you want to button this project up and get the remaining money. So we'll hold a little bit of retainage, and that typically is a good incentive to come back. There is a 2-year warranty. We extended the warranty on the concrete approach for the parking lot. And then I think paving work typically has about 1 year. And normally
depending on what's going on, if we're out here for another project, we're keeping an eye on some of these things. We've had some streets on previous projects that we've gotten extended warranties because of the condition of what the work was. Some of it's tricky, especially one, Scioto had a mill and resurface. And I wasn't particularly happy with what I felt the finish was on that during the original paving work. It was structurally fine. But it just, I was concerned whether or not that was gonna have any issues in the first year or two. So we actually got an extended warranty outside of the setup of the contract, so. They put them on a 2-year pattern to make sure that we had a couple of freeze-thaw periods to watch it, make sure it would be not we needed to. So those are some things that we would normally do. If we've got some areas that are a question where we need to perform the work, it meets the requirements, but things are still a little bit iffy or we have a concern with it. We're gonna look at what the alternatives are. Oftentimes it's that extended warranty period, which is a separate document extended by the contractor to the city to make sure that that's gonna be taken care of. So if there's something that does come up with that, they'll come back and take care of that.
Yeah, I don't speak for everyone. I think our biggest concern through a multitude of conversations over the last 6 months have been, none of us are engineers. So we have no idea what the right course of action is on 90% of this. All we know is that at the end of the day, we have people approaching us saying, why did you chip seal Grand River if there's potholes? And our answer is, oh no. And the answer we got from our head of DPW is it was done to that.
So,
But that's,
yeah,
we don't know.
and as we get into some of the stuff too, especially into the CIP, there are things that we want to keep in mind. So this is good for keeping this in front of you and maybe provide, I don't know how you want to handle it, but I assume if you have some particular input that can be provided, we can keep that in mind. But how we prioritize what we're going to set up in those CIPs. There are a lot of different ways to work towards maintaining, and I'm gonna use the pavement as an example, because that's a very large asset in the city. And it's not something that is more than a position for us to just go and replace it all, right? So in order to keep those pavement sections as long as we can, maintaining them to conditions so that we can get to the point where a more higher level fix can be done there. We're gonna be looking at doing some of these things like a chip with water, chip seal. That is what is normally considered maybe a 2 to 4 year type fix. The big benefit from that is we're gonna try to minimize the amount of water that's gonna get through that pavement section through the base. That's the most dangerous part of the deterioration rate on pavement itself, when the water starts to get through it. So in the last several years, you've seen probably a lot more crack sealing going on in town than what you'd seen before. And that's part of what we looked at in the 5-year plan, is trying to stay on top of that. And within a year or two of getting new pavement work done, so whether that's a full HMA replacement, or if we come and do a mill in and resurface, or even an overlay, mill and resurface. I'll put a couple of these in here, sorry. You made a statement, so I want to make sure I kind of give clarity, and you guys can tell me, knock it off, we know. I won't feel bad about it. Mill and resurface, they'll come through and they have a machine that's got teeth that grinds the top part or certain depth of the HMA or asphalt up. And then we come back here and they come back in and then they'll fill that back in. So that allows us to keep the same pavement thickness and get a new wearing course on it, and to try to minimize the amount of water that's coming through there. An overlay, you'll hear that statement, you'll start seeing some of this stuff in the CIP, is where we don't necessarily change any of that. They just come out and they pave a new layer of asphalt on it. Chip and fog, and or chip seal. They have a a bituminous material. They'll put it down and they'll press the stone into it. It's a surface coating and a seal coat to that. It's not gonna cover everything, but it's gonna give you some better wear time, and it's also going to help minimize any of that water gain. And then we're using a lot more of the crack sealing, more advanced style crack sealing. We're using it for two purposes, depending on the road. One is to seal those cracks and try to keep that water from getting in there. The other, some of the roads might be far enough that we're just trying to keep the pieces together until we can come back and be able to do the next level fix to that, right? If we start looking at going through and doing pavement replacement sections, for the pavements that we ought to take out completely and remove and replace, the numbers will be astronomical. But if we approach this in a fashion where we can attack a few of those in each of these 5-year periods, and then be able to go with these other fixes that line up well for what we can with those pavements, we can extend the life of those pavements and get a lot more out of it for a lot smaller dollar. So Grand River is really in need of probably a multi-course mill resurface. So they would mill out probably 3 inches or so, and then have two passes of material that would go back in. It probably could get to a point where you could do a full pavement replacement, but the width of that pavement and the thickness of that, when you start to calculate those costs, it's pretty significant. So those typically have been projects that we try to find some alternative funding to go along with it. The section to the east was done with some NDOT local agency money in the past. So if we could get into a point to be able to align that up again with some additional dollars, it makes it a little bit easier to go after that type of a project. So in the end, you're gonna see some fixes that might not line up exactly with what would be the best thing to do at that scenario. But they're providing us time to be able to bring other sections of the pavement and their quality, the structural level up, and then be able to come back to do those repairs.
Removal would be pavement that is just so shot that you can't mill and pave,
Correct.
correct?
Be very alligator.
Yeah.
Where it's a mill came through, would be grabbing chunks.
It'd be thrown.
We have used another method, it's bituminous-based HMA flushing and shaping. We did this out on Woodhull for part of the road years ago. That works out well when you're in an uncurved section, although we have used it in a curved section before as well. And what that does is it grinds up the material, the asphalt, and mixes it up with the aggregate base in order to create a better base material yet that can be compacted. Ideally using that in that uncurved section, because you can grade it back and then pave over it. When you're in a curved section, you actually have to dig out some of that material in order to have some room to put the HMA back and match it up with the curves. It works really well until you get into a heavily alligator section. And then it goes teeth, same thing with the milling. The teeth will try to grab those pieces of pavement, and instead of breaking them up, they're so small, it just jumbles it up, and then you end up with these big chunks of things in there. It just doesn't work out very well. So the life cycle of the pavement, we try to take into account the types of fixes that would go into that, and then match that up, because a true life cycle of an asphalt pavement is really only 20 to 25 years. Reality is we have to make those last a lot longer than that. Nobody's really in a position to be able to replace a pavement section like that frequently. But if we get a new pavement section and we get in there and we're able to do the cracks in the right way, as soon as those, because they're flexible pavements, are constantly moving, they oxidize, and once they oxidize, they get brittle. As they get brittle, they'll allow that opportunity to crack. So that's where normally you would be looking in the 5-10 year mark. We would be going in to want to do a mill and resurface, because that top surface is where you get the oxidation and the degradation of that pavement. But it's hard to go and spend millions, mill and resurface dollars on a pavement that's that new when we have these other sections. So we try to help figure out a good way to balance where that money can go, what we can do to keep those sections as in good of shape as possible, get the maximum time that's reasonable out of those sections. And then the sections that are too far gone, what can we do to just be able to hold those together until we can get to a point to have a close reconstruct project?
You are currently doing an inventory for us, aren't you, on our streets?
This CIP, we'll go through that. I believe Dave actually went through and did the Pacer rating on that. Yeah. So gone through and gave a grading for that. We'll take that information and apply fixes to that. Then usually we come back out with that fix and double check, hey, is this gonna work for this pavement section the way it's set?
Because ideally, you do your work before it gets so bad that you have to tear out and start over. That's the cheapest thing to do.
Oh, preventative maintenance, yeah, oh, for
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
Well, but preventative repaving, to mill and pave is the ideal scenario, isn't it?
Extending the dollar, good, better, best, yeah, yep, for sure. My brain works in analogies, so it's like, if you think of the streets within the city as you're in a boat and a ship and you got holes. And
You've gotta
water coming in.
Plug the hole first.
You're not gonna spend 10 minutes on this hole, you're plugging the holes so you can bail water with a bucket. And then focus on fixing that one and then extending these ones, cause that one broke open. You're extending your dollar and find the best fix that makes sense with the funding that you have.
So for example, as we went through this last CIP and will engage in the next CIP as well. Any of these pavement sections that have gotten a little bit more substantial type of repair to them. Whether it's a mill and resurface, even some of the overlays were. Within 2 years, we've got on the plan to go out and do crack sealing. Because we're gonna see the reflective cracks coming up from that base material in that time period. And then crack sealing is relatively inexpensive, all things considered for a total cost against a pavement section. So if we can stay on top of that, minimize the amount of water getting into that base material, we can slow down the deterioration rate to keep that up as long as possible. That second stage of that is where we usually would start to look at the chip and fog. We'd be able to start looking at putting surface over the whole thing and by another couple of years of what that degradation on the surface is, the oxidation. That's the one on there, give it another sacrificial material to see.
And where a road reconstruct, it's even potentially more costly, is if you're gonna like shiny new coat over a sewer that's in need of placement, that's not ideal either, so. Really gotta look at what's underneath of that road as well.
And that's something that we have been doing, especially in this last CIP, we'll be keeping that in mind. Every time we engage in what's gonna be a road project, we go back and take a look at where are we at from the sewer perspective. Luckily, the sanitary system is really in pretty good shape. We're getting pretty close to needing to go out and make sure we get it on a cleaning and televising schedule. Talked a little bit about it, but being able to keep an eye on that deterioration rate. But most of that system was constructed in the early 1980s.
Late 70s.
Late 70s, 78 through 80, 81, and then there were a couple extensions in the 90s. And so those pipes, that system, we got a chance to look at the vast majority of it with the SAW program, which was in 2014 through 17. And so it's been a little while now since that televising work was completed, but when we looked at it then, it was holding really well, so that's good. The storm is another story. And the challenging part is that sanitary, there are different funding sources that are out there to kind of tackle that to some level. A storm, there's very limited, so most of that comes out of whatever's either bonded millage or general fund protection, which. But regardless of that, we take a look at it, each time we come up on a project area that we're gonna do at least a mill and resurface. We do check this stuff for the overlay. On a chip and fork, it's only gonna last 2 to 4 years. That's not gonna be the kind of thing that's gonna drive that. But if we're gonna have a little higher investment into that rehab on that pavement section, it's definitely worth looking at. Are we gonna make a repair or an adjustment to any of that on this storm sewer? I think we've replaced probably 4 or 5 reaches in areas that were there, and then we actually had a couple sections that we've added sewer to that just had drainage challenges to begin with. And-
Storm sewer.
Storm sewer, correct, yep. And just needed to be picked up, so if we were excavating in that area, we already got a contractor, that was gonna be planned for those. Then normally we do that. There have been a few times where the funding doesn't line up real well with that, and we've actually had a local contractor, city hired, came out, did the storm sewer work ahead of the contract, and then road work came through and took care of the rest of the rehab. Sometimes that ends up being more cost effective. So we try to keep that in mind when we're looking at projects as well. There might be times where you're doing work in an area and it says, you think, all right, well, we already got a contractor that's gonna be here and do this, we'll just have them do everything. Well, if you're doing a lot of road work and you have one area that they're gonna do a little bit of deeper excavation work, that might rule out what the contractor is gonna do. They might have to sub that work because you might have a paving contractor that would do this project. But they have they need an excavator to come in and do this other work. So now you might be paying markup from the sub, out of kind of trying on the sub on top of that. And I also have some benefits of interacting with some of the local contractors to be able to go out and attack that type of work up front. And get that out of the way and be able to keep the costs.
From a council perspective, though, a lot of these decisions are gonna be made really before it gets to us, right? But if you guys are looking at, let's say, Grand River. And because I don't think many of us were here for the beginning of that chip seal bid process. You're getting contacted by someone here, or you're telling us, hey, you guys need to look at Grand River. You're giving us your recommendation. But when I say us, it's going to staff. You guys are communicating and ultimately it's coming us with approval. We're only ever gonna see the net results of whatever conversations were had between staff and C2A, correct?
It depends, if there's certain things that, you want to have presented, that's not a problem. We can come in and talk about what's going on the design, or if there's particular.
More necessarily just trying to get an understanding of
Yeah,
how the
it's
system
under-
works. Yeah.
Under normal conditions, where you're gonna see probably a little bit of this is. In this aspect, we're working on a CIP, so you're gonna get a chance to see what's the plan, what are we really looking at? Because ideally, we're planning, we wanna try to get away from having to do repairs on the fly, right? This is so much more expensive, so much more impact to the budget, that if we can get to a planning, be able to get most of this stuff either into a structured bid or something that's negotiated contract from a construction perspective, way better off on costs. So you'll get a chance to see that type of thing coming through from a planning perspective. And then as those projects are set up where we're providing proposal for the design, you're gonna get an opportunity to see what the intent is. And we could talk a little bit about what we're looking at that point too. We might not have a whole lot of information yet, because we gotta start digging into detail from a design perspective. But answering questions and being able to address that's something to talk about. If you're getting into projects that have funding involved in them, so we're pursuing grants or pursuing other funding sources, really highlight that there are either public hearing periods or communication that are involved in this. Well, not all, but a lot of them have that type of stuff involved in it. So public issue movement, and usually those are held in adjacent to the council. So it's not always that you would be outside of that loop of information, but there are little things that are there, but does the council not typically involved in the details? As I understand. You would know what kind of project is going on, so if there's an intent of some input or something of that nature, to be an opportunity to provide it.
Any more? Very informative, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
That answers a lot of questions on everybody's end. So. You guys have anything else you want to add?
Just want to make sure you guys are comfortable with what's going on and what we're involved with. And, we're available to answer questions. Obviously, there's some things that you guys need us to come back in and talk through some process or whatever. That's not a problem. Typically, we can find data to set up a meeting. There've been a few times where I've been on by a call or whatever, so. It comes times on practice days, so if I look a little dressed down, I'm sorry. I might have just crawled off the water with a bunch of high schoolers and middle schoolers. But, yeah, we don't want you to feel like there's a bunch of question marks that are out there.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Appreciate your time and I'm sure we'll have more questions and send them at you whenever we get them. So I appreciate you guys coming in. All right, let's move on to number 4. Number 4, approval of the Frank McGillis RFP for the real estate broker services.
Our only one.
Our only one, so. Need a motion?
I make a motion to approve Frank McGillis for real estate brokerage services.
Take a second.
I'll second.
Okay, open for discussion.
Would it make sense to table this until we have a discussion about the Treat Street property, if this is for specific Treat Street?
I don't know if it is specific for trees.
Well,
Well, if we retain them,
Right.
yeah, and I don't know if, you necessarily you're only gonna retain him for that specific property. Only reason I say that is when we put that RFP out, we had people maybe interested in other properties. So I don't know if you want to table it till after the streets thing's done and then put him on. But I know that and I don't know about you, but I'm not comfortable with the process of selling city property without, having somebody who knows what they're doing as far as selling, yeah, and it being a municipality property. And so in
other words, if we were to accept the offer, you'd be more comfortable if he did the paperwork part of it.
well, yes, I mean, I never,
Is he gonna charge us those fees
well, that,
for just doing paperwork?
and I don't know, and I'm assuming, I don't know that. I mean, we'd have to specifically ask him that if, my issue, I mean, with Terry, it's a little different. It's a, pretty kind of, he's got a purchase order already. He's got this. My issue is with other properties like that, those might be more difficult. And we don't really have an appraisal of streets property, so, that's another thing. I mean, that's.
Didn't our assessor do,
Well, this went off what the assessed value is, what it all been.
Assessed value isn't the value.
but with his vast experience.
Yeah, I mean,
Wouldn't he
think
have a
threw
very close educated guess?
he will have an educated guess on what
Cause it's always an ad.
Yeah.
As far as I'm
Yes.
concerned, it's always.
And I'm not insinuating that Frank's gonna go, oh yeah, this is what it is and blah, blah, blah. I have more of future properties that we have and people. Now that we put that out there, there are interests in other properties that we have, so. to me, this one's gonna be kind of,
This one I think would be easier.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
because he already has a purchase.
And
agreement.
next door and yada.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, this one's a little simpler. It's just, I don't wanna say, put it off because. And I don't know how it will go if you approve it now, if he's immediately hired. I think you're just approving his RFP that he applied and, okay, but I don't think you have to, now every property we have, he has to be involved in.
Yeah, it's not a contractual agreement
Right.
that we're solely gonna use him, right? Couldn't we not opt to?
Well, you can always put another RFP out there for it and get somebody else.
And we're not paying him anything.
No,
He's only taking commission off of sales.
Yeah.
So we're not entering into like a, hey, we're paying you
No,
a
There's no
retainer.
retainer.
This has,
yes,
it's not tied to tree,
no,
it's
no,
just
no,
just
not at all.
In general, I
No.
would like to
services.
offer my
Yeah.
services to Laingsburg.
Yeah, cause.
And that's what the RFP was,
Yes,
just in general.
And we're
Yes.
just
yes,
yay or nay
yeah. whether-
accepting his.
Yeah.
Hiring his service
When we need it, yeah,
as needed.
Yeah. so.
Probably be a good question to ask the city attorney.
Your question?
Well, with the selling real estate of the city property,
That's the
Street
Street
Street,
Street.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
yeah, we have somebody that wants to purchase it, and he put a purchase agreement together,
I see.
which is in there, yeah. But we also had put out an RFP to hire a realtor so that they could handle the city properties if they were sold. So right now, we have both. The RFP came in, we have this guy that was willing to do it, but yet we have Street Street. That's got a purchase agreement, all that, we didn't have a realtor yet. So we should be able to just sell that property with that purchase agreement without hiring the realtor to do that. 'Cause
Correct.
it's-
Have you put it up for bids?
The,
The
The-
property?
no, which is another whole, this is why I'm not comfortable with the whole. Yeah, we had somebody approach us for that property.
So we would be
Before we sold.
wise
Be
to,
wise to run bids. You're gonna get all kinds of complaints later on. Somebody else, they're gonna descend upon you.
This is why I don't feel comfortable, because I know nothing about this, and that's why. Even though we may lose money hiring Frank, he's gonna at least know how to. To go forward.
That's
with,
wise, let's just be, safe and.
Yeah, I mean, yes, we could probably sell that property to him, make more money and not have to pay anybody to do it. But at the same time,
But
I've
you're
also
gonna have
read,
all kinds of headaches.
yeah, and I've also read this whole thing about bidding and putting up for auction, and there's all these other things that municipalities do, and I'm like, I don't know enough to say, yeah, we should do that.
I think that's a pretty valid concern that. Because he is a neighbor.
Yeah.
Or. Yeah. We shouldn't. Just say, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's,
Do our due diligence, send it out.
I think that we need to publicize that it's for sale.
Which I think we did.
But we did.
no, we
No, we did
didn't,
not.
because we had to get a.
That's kind of a
realtor.
second discussion to whether we bring him.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I mean,
that's-
we're talking specifically how we're handling Street Street with that.
Right,
And
and-
we're not to that yet.
right, and we're not even on that,
Right.
that motion, right now we're on the motion of Frank, so.
Yeah.
Let's get back on the Frank thing.
Yeah, that's kind of why I'm trying to explain that we don't want to skip this
Yeah.
until
It
next
would be
month.
one, from a legal standpoint to have somebody that actually knows real estate law, because we don't. I'm sure you won't want to go down that road with us either. So I'm just, my thought is, let's get somebody in that actually can do it and protect the city from that standpoint, because we can make mistakes and cost us a lot more money to law. Just my thought.
Sounds reasonable.
So we have.
And blue-
Yeah, we have a motion and support. I'm just waiting for any more discussion. That's, we're all done discussing.
And if we wanna get into hypotheticals, if we did go through Frank and accept the $20,000 offer. We'd be paying $1,695. We'd still be walking away with over 18.
Well, we're not getting any.
Right.
We spend more money to just maintain.
And then we're covered.
Any more discussion?
But I think we're covered if we advertise it as being for sale,
Mhm.
available. I think that covers us. And if nobody comes forward, here you go.
Right.
Run it for what, 30 days?
Yeah.
And frankly, know what, from a municipality standpoint, what the time frame has to be,
And yeah,
so. Any more discussion on Frank? Okay, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that is passed, so we will get a hold of Frank. Talk to him tomorrow.
he's not far away.
No, it's not. Well, we see it's fine. All right, next one, right on the Street. Bradenburg selling agreement. So I think we kind of have an idea of what we need to do.
Is this a closed session thing? I see.
That,
It should be for real estate, isn't it?
if you're gonna discuss the pricing of, negotiate,
Right.
So,
I-
a movie table,
Yeah.
until we get the.
Yeah.
Real estate.
So, yeah, I think we need to table this until.
You
we-
made a motion, I seconded it.
Okay. Any discussion on tabling that? Okay,
I just have a question about this document, but I don't know. if I asked them.
I would not until, because that way we can bring it up later. Because we're gonna, basically the motion is to table this right now. All right, all in favor of tabling this to the next meeting so we can get Frank in place and post it?
All right,
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that is down to table. All right, next on the list, financial status.
that's quick. Great.
We're sitting okay.
Why was the sewer fund collections like $60,000 less than our revenue on that? Why was it less? 60-some thousand dollars less than projected?
Delinquencies.
Right.
So that goes to, there's delinquencies and it goes on their taxes. There's a lot of people that,
and we don't collect it for another 2 years.
yeah, so.
We don't do what for 2 years?
Takes a little
We don't,
bit.
it takes like 2 years to get it onto their taxes before we do them, get reimbursed back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's why.
Okay.
I mean,
That was the only thing. that stood out.
calculate it easy, but if people don't pay, then
Right. So 276,
Eventually get it.
450 is.
just turn their suit.
Yeah.
You don't get to flush that.
Dave will turn the bell.
That's really good.
That makes
There's a
sense.
lot of
That's
delinquencies.
surprising.
Well, there's people that just do it
They
on
just-
purpose.
Yeah, they just don't, they just let it go on their taxes, so it's, they don't have to come in and pay it, they pay the $5 late fee.
Especially if they have an escrow, it's just something that's added to their. escrow.
$5 late fee like total, or is that something we need
Every-
to talk about every?
Blazing.
So it's $5 a
Every
quarter,
quarter.
late, so it's. $20 a year that you
Right,
can just add it to your tax bill.
Hmm.
And
That's
That's
for
that.
another discussion. But yeah,
that's
What?
something that we
so
can,
that might be another discussion.
okay. Yes,
was that something you would like me to present?
that is something that we should bring
On the next
Alright.
agenda,
on the next agenda.
raising the late fees for the.
Soon. And we'll pay for the changes we need.
We do get paid,
Yeah,
it's just
Right,
takes,
takes a little, like another year.
but we're down, what'd you say, Randy?
67,000.
60 grand,
It was.
$20 is on the penalty.
But is that
Because it's down
consistent? Does it happen year
60
after year that we're 67,000 like inch shortfall?
Well, we have to think, we just raised it.
Yeah.
So people are just not paying it,
so
So
it's
it's
more now.
more than what it.
We get it,
typically is.
it's just delayed,
Yeah.
and we get a little bit more because of the delay, we get.
Is there a higher increase in the people that are not paying it this year as a result of the increase than in the years past?
Well, I don't know, I would have to ask them if that's why, but
Yeah.
I mean, it just coincides that, we raised it
Yeah, I
and,
think it's the same people do the same
Yeah.
things.
Right.
and
but we need to
I-
add that on a typical, what could have been 40,000 is now gonna be 60,000, is because their payment is bigger. For the year too, so there's both, those that aren't paying, that's a probably increase, and then there's it did increase, so that payment is going to increase itself.
Sorry that I pulled the one negative thing out of this positive, otherwise positive.
Thanks. Tim was even like, we're good, and you're like,
Soon. Well, let me stop you right there, Tim. I have concerns.
Well, due to the fact that we could operate for approximately 21 months without any money coming in,
We're in good standing.
I'm thinking maybe we should consider a 1-year reprieve for everyone. No taxes this year.
Wow.
Is this Danelle, have you seen the surplus in the history of the budget? Or is
yeah,
it-
there's always there's always a surplus. This last year was more, but it's also a good timing thing because we had big projects that went in between both fiscal years from 24-25 to 25-26. We had the streets that some of that was budgeted last year, but that didn't get paid until this year. The kayak launch is a big one that was budgeted for last year because I wasn't sure when that would start, 24-25. That wasn't, or is now, it was, I mean, I pushed it to this year, but those prices would be reflected in the budget that would be impacting the audit, right? And now for this year, it'll look a lot different because we're gonna have a lot more coming out. More parking lot, the streets,
We won't
the
have
launch,
surplus.
we should not have as much of a surplus.
I'm just thinking if we have a consistent surplus, is there other things that we could do to help the community? Reducing like a millage or something.
Well, I know it decreases every year. Anyways,
I'm just.
so when I look
We
back on it,
probably help
because-
them by giving them decent roads and sidewalks.
it's more to plan for I think, all the DPW stuff that was improved last fiscal year. Stuff that still needs to be improved, like a backhoe is not cheap. We've been talking about the brush for the sidewalks,
There's just
there's this,
Break projects
Yeah.
out of it.
Yeah.
And say operating,
Right.
we're on budget, and then projects is a totally different
Mhm.
thing. Because they're one-offs.
Yeah.
You know, you've got hundreds of thousands for the kayak launch,
Still out there.
and it's skewing everything.
Right.
So if we were to just look at operating separate from projects.
Right.
We could probably get a better idea of
Right.
actual budget versus.
And with the sewer project coming up in the future, that's gonna really drastically change.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's just thoughts, so.
We'll be up to 150 at that point.
150.
The $6 late fee.
Right.
Wow.
750.
I like it.
Any more questions for Danelle on financial status?
For no second.
No, all right, moving on. All right, motion to approve resolution 2602, ethics and conflict of interest policy.
I make a motion to approve resolution 2602, ethics and conflict of interest policy.
Starting to sound like the C2A. We abbreviate that into. something.
You should have.
Yeah.
So this,
Need a
if
second?
I
I second.
master,
Reset.
at my master class last month, there was a lot of talk about policies and things that, you should have in place. So this is the start of it. So this is the first one I went with, so
I agree, happens.
it's,
It gives you guidelines to recuse yourself if something personally is affecting you that we're talking about, so I like that. I know I talked to them about it 2 months ago, a month ago or something, so.
yeah, this was a big one they said that everyone should have, and like, so I came back immediately and said, "Oh, we don't have one."
Personally.
It's time to, yeah, yes. So. And there'll be more to come. So,
Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor for accepting it? Say aye. Any opposed? That is accepted and put into meeting. All right, number 8, RFP for building inspector.
Make a motion to approve the RFP.
All right, so.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay, any discussion on this?
I put these backwards. I probably should put the resignation in first. before-
Yeah, well, you did that last meeting though, too. So I did a little calling today, and I've done it 2 years ago when we were talking about bringing them on, but. Owasso has somebody by the name of Nate Charles. I did not get a chance to talk to them. Then Sherman is in Corona. DeWitt City goes through the township. I was not able to get a hold of them just yet, but there are.
We got that.
You got it.
Yeah, we got them.
Okay, yeah.
We've got
yeah,
like
probably.
5 that we've already collected, so you.
The scope of services match what,
Well, we're gonna send them
Yeah,
to
we're
the
gonna,
individuals we know.
yeah, we're gonna send this RFP right to all these people,
Okay.
so they can come
but
back.
this matches what other cities.
It's what we want
Okay,
in a building inspector, so. I'm assuming that these people are all gonna have these. I mean, I know actually 2 of our trades people are building inspectors, so we're gonna send it out to them, give them a chance to come back. So, because Rob did not inform that he was leaving, so we had to connect trades people and say, we need a new contract with you. They're like, oh, we didn't know he left, so.
Does CTLA having building inspectors in your Rolodex that you can recommend?
I could take a look. We don't typically do a whole lot of direct activity with them, but
Just figured I'd ask that you're here.
yeah, we work in a new community, so I can check and see if there's other contacts. What's a role in it?
You would say that.
Something that always works.
but you guys just put it out there.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll post it on
Yeah.
online, but we're gonna send it directly to all of you,
Yeah.
so which is another thing, if we get enough and we wanna have a special meeting to hire somebody quickly. We may have to do that, because I'm only putting it out till like the 24th, so we're gonna send it out tomorrow and then give them like 2 weeks. So if we get everybody's back, I will might call them, especially to hire somebody, because we really make sense.
Yeah, it's a hot minute before we have that happen.
Thankfully, it's
You
slow
put
season.
January 26th.
Something like 20 something I put on there because I.
Our
wanted to
next
put
meeting
Richard.
is February
Right,
2nd.
Yeah,
That's only a week later.
I guess. we
Yeah.
could
I mean,
gauge how
I'm hoping that they all
busy
come
it
back.
is, yeah.
And I figured that's why you did the
Yeah.
26th, so that we could do it at the February meeting.
Yep, yep. And the only way that, I mean, and yes, if there's nothing going on and nobody calls, but we do have somebody that just called today. So, unless we get some people that are wanting building permits and stuff like that, then I'll call, especially if we don't. Well, wait. Believe me.
So on the floor, motion and a second for accepting the RFP for the building inspector. Any more discussion? No, all right, it's all going, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving forward. Okay, number 9. Motion to approve resolution 2601, poverty exemption and policy guidelines. This is a yearly thing that we do.
Make a motion.
Second. Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion?
How often is this utilized?
Never happened.
Lisa,
Once a year, one person a year, or
Get into it.
5,
I don't-
0?
I think we have in the past, but not.
Since I've
frequently.
not since I've been here.
When I was on board review, took. People who need it typically don't have the paperwork filled out
In time.
to get it approved.
In time or even.
I mean, like,
It's
this-
unfortunate.
Yeah,
but
this,
it's-
and it's kind of
Well,
weird, because
it's
it's something
something
I read through that and it's quite dry. It looked like it was set up to, you will pay.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, you really have to follow all of those.
But there were things in there that even if you do it all right and get it on time, then they say, no, you were too late.
I think because we have our border review, which was weeks ago.
Beginning of December.
Yeah, so you have to have it all in for this year, so that stuff is for this coming year. So like anybody, because it just comes out like
Hmm.
right away, so, and it goes up every year, like the numbers move. But yeah, and half the people don't even know about it.
Well, we need
Lot
to
of it.
approve that, for me to put that letter in for what's in legislation right now to increase that and maybe that'll spark something.
And
more.
this does go on our website every
Yeah.
year, put the new numbers out there and.
Just getting people to see it and know what.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that, and it's, cause I really dug deep into this because I kept thinking, why do we have to have the council approve this? Because it's the state regulated law
Mhm.
and the board of review are the only ones who can approve this. The
Right.
council has nothing to do with approving this. But everything I read said, we just highly suggest that you have this approved by the council. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll just wait for the resolution to do it.
Any more discussion? Let's get to it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried through. Number 10, motion to approve the resignation of Robert Keel, Laingsburg Building Inspector.
I make a motion to accept his resignation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, committees. Who's got some information from a committee?
We didn't have a lot of meetings.
We'll start off with library since it's top of the list.
We had a successful, silent auction. I'm not gonna tell you the exact number because I don't remember.
I can tell you it was good.
It was
Yep,
fine.
I brought in the money.
It was,
so-
Was it $46,000 or was
There
it
was a-
6,000?
I'm gonna say it's more like 4 to 6. The weather, I think, for Winterfest helped us. It was cold, but it wasn't a blizzard and,
I
It
don't know, I think
was-
you guys stepped up on what you
Oh,
offered too. Really.
yeah, they really,
Yeah.
yeah.
Amazing.
Sarah Matson and team that did all that, it was good. So, and everybody, that last hour was,
Was it like?
it was rocking, it was like crazy. There was no room to move and so, yeah, it was nice. And Sarah has, Danford has a lot going on. She has, an accountant coming in this week and, stuff happening all the time out there, so.
One question on that, I noticed in one of our financial documents tonight. In my review ahead of time, the Grand Hotel, like a payment of 625, which I'm aware that we had to like, library had to front the money. To get the 2-night stay or whatever.
Correct.
Did the city pay for that, or how did I see that?
No, well, we have to.
They had to write the check.
They write the check,
Yeah.
but it's
But
the
then-
library.
but then-
Out of the library.
It's out of the library's fund, but.
But
We
the
just-
city is out of the library fund.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we recouped
that money,
and more.
yeah, good.
Yes.
We didn't have DDA or.
DDA,
planning
that-
commission, so.
Yep, no meeting DD or DBW. What you got, Dave? Or who, or Scott?
I'll start. We'll go to Dave if I lie.
I always forgot things.
We've had a bunch of good meetings. We're really talking about setting expectations for not only council, but for Dave and the whole department, so the citizens understand what we're doing. When we're picking up brush, when we're gonna start, when we're gonna stop. How we remove snow and salt and all those aspects of what we do in the public service area. And dealing with the library, making sure we're communicating better to make sure those things are getting done. And the expectation is those things that need to be done will do, but then they want to list and prioritize. We want to make sure that Looking Glass Terrace is getting taken care of. If that's truly our property, we're going to be maintaining those streets and sidewalks and such that, or as we go down that path to make sure all those things are done. So hopefully 2026 has a lot of potential ahead of us, and we're gonna try each month, identify one thing that Dave's gonna go through and explain to the department, whether it be snow removal, the sewer system, sidewalk replacement, whatever, so we have a better comprehension on what we're doing as a department. And then when we get our list of to do from our sidewalk evaluations and all that, we can blow through this reserve thing that you got over there.
Never said that.
But beyond that, unless you have anything else, Dave?
I mean, it was pretty productive meetings.
Very good.
Nice. All right, finance.
We went over the update that we went over, the financial status. So we touched on that here.
Parents for the budget. There.
Police.
Standard Meeting, going over different reports and traffic stops, nothing out of the ordinary.
Hey, SOP. How about a building inspection report? Not here.
I do, I,
You have one?
yeah, see,
Well, let's make the notes that happen.
here is a list if you guys wanna see of everything that was done in 24 and 25. So.
Any
want-
line item for this, please?
Um, but this is actually, I did how the building permit, this was last year. So we were very fortunate. That we had a Jen
and
and
the
a
new
house
house.
come in, that was over $17,000 and we pay him 10 grand. And but then other than that, as you can see, we just, and then I put others. To me, the trend is between 4 to 6 grand is what we pay or get or receive
Normally.
in permit, so.
And is it normal practice that a city, municipality, is to at least break even?
We should. That's one thing we really need to look at
That's
if we
typical?
hire someone is that their
Typically that
fees.
happens,
It depends on the
fees are-
community, I mean,
or
like,
is it us that are choosing that we want to break
If you
even?
wanna make, you wanna make
well, for
money.
years, we were definitely doing really well, because we were only paying $3,000
For the
to
county.
the county to do everything, so. I think you're gonna have
But
to
then
go
we had
back.
lots of problems with the county.
Well, I
And,
think that also is like, depends on who, really.
Yeah,
I think we could say that
I
with
had my
Rob.
problems with them.
well, I'm sure
I
people would have
decided
eventually
I
had.
stopped getting up in the morning because anything that I did was just terrible.
Well,
Um,
I
Whereas,
don't know if there's a municipalities try to break even or if they're. I don't know what other municipalities and every municipality does it different. Some building inspectors come in and they keep everything. We don't do anything. They keep all the fees, they do, whatever, and then they are paid accordingly. Some don't, the municipality keeps, so it's, I don't know how we'd even, it's all what you wanna do.
Is the question, how much do we want to lose? And whatever we're losing, the taxpayers who aren't using the service
Hey.
are subsidizing
Yeah.
the people who are using.
And you
So-
also too, I think with our city, we're a little bit unique too, where we don't have a whole lot more to build. We're not building subdivisions anymore. There's just not enough room for them. So other cities, they may have all this property that, building inspectors are not even gonna be, they look at.
Can we look at a percentage based commitment? Rather than like a flat, hey, we pay you $5,000 a year, 10 grand
Well,
a year.
some of them keep all the fees.
80% of the fees,
Some of them-
whatever.
Some of them, they come in and they keep all the fees.
That's what they're paying.
Yeah,
But I'm saying instead of I don't know, all of it, I don't know, maybe we could offer
it's.
a majority of it, but we still get something, so like.
It'd be all in the RFP when they come back, like what would. the
Yeah, and
ownership
it's all on what you want the contract to.
There's no
or-
set standard.
The nice thing about fee
Yeah.
driven is if they're just collecting a fee and keeping it, then it's never costing the city anything.
Well, and then they're gonna probably, hopefully work
The more they work,
Yes.
for it.
the more permits they serve, the more money they make. Whereas Rob, he could have done $1,000 worth of work and still got paid 10 grand.
Yeah.
So at least kind of safeguard the city, and do it that way.
but the other side also. The city gains in taxable value and higher
Yes,
property taxes that you're gonna receive for.
Yeah.
Ever.
Well, he's a zoning administrator too, so
Yeah.
that's gonna cost the city something.
Yeah.
So I mean.
And we'll
I
also,
could get out
he'll
of it with
also,
nothing.
end up being a rental, not to do.
But there should be some revenue generated there
Yes.
potentially as well.
Or
For.
that breaks
Yeah.
even, like,
Yeah.
I feel like at the least, that probably is something we definitely don't
We
wanna
should,
be paying out.
No, because those are income problems.
Yeah.
That shouldn't
Yeah.
cost the city.
Right,
Everything's just at least break even.
yeah, I mean, I would think that's what most municipalities want to do, at least break even, not make money on that kind of stuff. Cause I think as kind of as a whole thinking, the fees that we charge are what they charge, we're not
Fee schedules
making
need
money
to
off
be
everybody.
Aligned, cause they were not aligned.
No, and he told us they all wanted $75. And so I sent this email out to all of them and two of them are like, no, we're at 60. I'm like, I don't think it's $15 for,
Look,
I don't
Well,
know.
that's the problem. So we paid that, they are collecting $15 more, but none of our fees are changing.
Yeah, so we would
So-
have had to come back and raise our fees so that it matched with theirs, but two of them didn't say that they wanted that, so I don't, one of them must have, and he's gonna raise all of them. I don't know that.
So when we get the RFPs, like something that we need to,
well, February's meeting will solve the problem.
Yeah.
if you let it.
All right, LSW.
I was not. attendance.
Yes, sir.
Grandpa Steve.
Couple things, right now our ambulance is stationed in Shasburg. Because the crew quarters are being remodeled and redone, it's been 25 years and way past that. So they are repainting, redoing the floors, redoing the bathrooms. And, the polyurethane floor is supposed to go down this week, so hopefully, I don't know if they'll be back by Saturday. We'll have to wait and see what the contractors say. So it may take a couple extra minutes for the ambulance, because they are coming out of Shasburg. We did sign an agreement for a new engine. And that's gonna be approximately 2 to 2.5 years out. But we got it signed before the increase that took effect January 1st. So that should save us some money.
Did they end up doing the down payment to save a percentage?
Yeah, so they're gonna do a down payment, and I don't remember all the numbers, if they put. Like 350,000 down, it saves them approximately $17,000.
Wow.
On the price of the truck. So they're gonna put that down. Same thing with the chassis. The chassis, I think, was like 150,000. And if they put a certain amount down, then they save 7 or 8,000 on that. So, by putting some of that money down, then it does save quite a bit of money.
What was the truck that was most recently purchased and when was that?
That would be a tanker. And that was purchased, I think, 2 years ago. And I think that was about 550,000. But we need a new engine. The engine, NFPA says you can't have a frontline engine older than 25 years. The engine out of Station 1 here is a 98. And so it needs to be replaced. And unfortunately, it's jumped up in price. But we are going through a company called EV Plus, which is actually made out of South Dakota. But we have a local representative that lives in the community that
Bill?
yeah, that does those trucks. So
Is this one also gonna have a $10,000 vinyl wrap on it?
no, not that I know
I was told that that was what was on the last truck that we
of.
received.
Well, it has a wrap of the shadow of fireman where the porta tank is on. So the porta tank comes down, comes back up. That is a wrap. I don't know that it was $10,000, but I don't have the specific amount on that. And the status of the ambulance. You're told it's being made right now, so hopefully it'll be here by February or March.
When the ambulance comes in, do we get are we keeping the other one or do we have to separate those out for a year for age as well?
We're gonna get rid of one of them.
Okay.
And it depends on which one, because the one that was remounted. Right now, we have electrical issues and that one's down, so. We're supposed to fix that one tomorrow.
Anything I'm missing from any committees? Any other items we need to bring up?
Just curious if there's ever been any feedback on the grocery delivery from Perry.
I have not heard any.
Have the
Looking at,
Looking Glass, do you know if any residents that have utilized the grocery delivery or anybody else in town?
I do not know, but as a board, we wouldn't Actually, yeah.
I was just curious if anybody had heard anything in the grapevine.
I could ask somebody. If he heard him, if he, what he's done and if they're tracking. I'll reach out to them. So.
I think that's what I owed for
Then I'll-
property. I mean, true.
We had other,
Other,
so everyone got, and now and myself's job descriptions.
Uh-huh.
Next month is our review. Yeah,
oh, valuation.
so, we haven't gotten down the actual specifics of how we're gonna do the, evaluations. I guess. It's gonna kind of be up to you guys how you wanna do them, if you wanna do by, committees. You're my committee, so. I myself will want it in, closed sessions. I'm sure she will too, so we have to request that.
Okay.
So.
Is
it's
that on the
gonna
next
be-
agenda or is that gonna be a special meeting?
No, it would either be on the agenda or the committee, depending on however they're gonna wanna do the. But
What do you mean,
it'll
the
be
committee, like,
Finance
like
committee.
she has a finance committee, Danny has the police committee, that's who would do the actual.
Okay.
Me, I don't have a committee, you are my committee.
You've got the executive.
Yeah. I get all of ya.
Could we
Sit in if
have
you want.
Greg?
And now-
We're looking forward.
Could you appoint two people
Yes.
from a you plus two people to do Tim's review? That way she doesn't have to sit from all of us.
Yes, I can.
And then, my thought on that was if each committee did the review of their respective department head, then we do a small closed portion where each department chair discusses the review process with the entirety of the council.
I guess question would be, are you guys okay if I do create that committee? I don't know what the process is. Going to be.
I,
Yeah, I just think that would make the most sense, because that way,
Okay.
you can sit through it twice.
Instead of sit in here with her.
More
and-
support.
She's not-
Well,
Scary.
boom.
Might be all together.
Yeah,
Yeah, we could.
let's create a motion.
I'll move that the mayor chooses two other council folks to do evaluations of the staff and report back to the full body.
Of the
body.
The clerk.
Of the clerk.
The clerk.
I will second that motion.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So I would be looking at probably Jason and Randy.
That one, damn.
All right, then.
He's like, thank gosh, I don't know.
Well, I will get with you guys
Yep.
and we'll set up a time and get that going so we can get from taken care of too, so. But yeah, financing will take care of it now. And police will take care, well, are you up for review? Are you even do review or are you?
Well, we're all getting reviews, that's what we decided next year.
My contract says that, but I haven't had one in 10 years.
Let's do one for you, just.
Well,
get you one.
is that,
Andy and I got this.
yeah, well, and
And-
we kind of want to make sure that the reviews are done probably all together, that way we're not
Yes.
just, willy-nilly all year long, so, I mean. I think
I
Dan,
thought we switched that last year, like November or something.
we did, before November
Yeah.
is what we did, and then it passed and we forgot.
Okay.
So,
do we need to schedule,
Sure.
like, you guys have requested that be a closed session meeting, so like, is it, how does that work? Like, if
We got enough.
Dan said,
Friendly side sign.
do we need,
Oh.
you will do it right in the police committee meeting.
Yeah, and you'll just close it at that time.
if he. requested?
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
request, yes.
No, I'm.
Should there be a
He should.
standardized format, so all of them?
I would think so. I can try to put something together.
Yeah, I would, my 2 cents, I've been thinking about it, is if we had whatever each individual's legal requirements were. I mean,
Which
there's,
is why we gave you the.
yeah, there are certain things everyone has to be accredited in. Make sure those are covered, their day-to-day tasks, very generalized,
Mhm.
and then special projects they've been working on. So then, I mean, for me, that would make sense.
Mhm, yes. Now it's the same thing year after year.
Yeah. And we can, this is year one, so at the end of it, maybe as a,
We can
we
tweak
can
it.
say, hey, how did this review process go? Because the most important thing my opinion at the end of it is that the employee walks away from it feeling it was a useful part of their day.
Mhm.
And that they're gonna be better equipped to do their job moving forward. So.
No.
Every. Feel that.
All right, so, I'll try to get something standardized together. Yes, we'll get it out to everybody so that way the community can really standardize it themselves, but.
We get the other two, well, no, I don't need the third one.
Dan's,
Dan and
Dan and Dave's.
well. I kind of felt like Dave's was, do you want to do another one
Or
for
you wanna
him?
count the one that you said?
Yeah, because I kind of feel like that was probably his evaluation when you, last meeting.
Just feel
we
like.
could probably do another, because we
Okay.
weren't really giving him a lot of input. We were talking a lot at him.
Okay,
We like to let
okay,
him have some say in what he does, that what we do.
yeah, and then they can get their job descriptions and I'll email them. So we're all ready to be going, so.
Sounds good. Okay, anything else? Motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye, we are adjourned. Thank you. You like that, Sharon?
You.
I like
It's
it.
actually
about my
way more
level.
comfortable.
It's my level too, so I can't not look up you.
Thanks for your.
Get those kind of figures. So long.
Way more comfortable.
Again, I prefer.
Meeting still on?
Not wrong.
We are still live, yes.
We could use a little.
Then I'll turns it off and live.
Oh, oops.